Phonemes and Phonics. I'm Gail Ogawa at the English Factory. I've been teaching English conversation in Japan at my neighborhood English school for over 4 decades. Over that time, I've gained valuable insight into why Japanese learners struggle to speak English, even after 8 years of formal education in English. In this video, I'll address one of the biggest reasons, the lack of phoneme and phonics training. Even if you're not Japanese but want to learn English, this video will show you why you should spend time learning phonemes and phonics to improve your English speaking skills. Most Japanese adults haven't even heard the words phonemes and phonics, let alone understand how important they are to speaking English. Unfortunately, the Japanese Ministry of Education's English curriculum doesn't place much value on speaking skills. Instead of teaching students the correct sounds of English, the curriculum allows students to use Japanese katakana. In this video, I hope Japanese English learners start to understand why learning English phonics and phonemes is important. First, I'll briefly introduce phonics. Recently, some private English schools with native-speaking teachers have started including phonics in children's lessons, and some Japanese English teaching influencers on social media post some videos about phonics. But for the most part, Japanese English learners still aren't getting the kind of phonics training they need to improve pronunciation and spelling, because too many people still don't understand what phonics are and how important they are for learning English. So, what are phonics? English, like all languages, is a kind of code. It builds from individual sounds that combine into patterns to form words. Each of these sounds is represented by a written symbol, a letter. Let's talk about 3 different kinds of writing systems. First, let's talk about the alphabetic writing system. English is a part of the alphabetic writing system along with Spanish, German, French, and most European languages. In the alphabetic writing system, each letter represents a sound. Next, there is the syllabic writing system. Japanese kana and American Native Cherokee are part of this writing system. In syllabic, each symbol represents a whole syllable. Next, there is the logographic writing system. Japanese and Chinese kanji characters are part of this system, along with Egyptian hieroglyphics. Symbols represent entire words or ideas instead of individual sounds. Phonics is the code-breaking system that explains how to pronounce the letters and how to spell words. Phonics are rules for how to pronounce individual letters and groups of letters in words. And also, phonics explains when there are exceptions to those rules. But here's the twist. English letters can represent more than one sound, and sometimes letters share the same sound. Sometimes 2 or 3 letters combine together to make a new sound. And some words have letters that are not pronounced when the word is spoken, but must be written. And sometimes letters in words just don't behave. They don't follow the rules. Here's an example of how phonics works. Here's a word, cat, and a word, cart. Both words contain A, but A is pronounced differently in each word. In the word cat, the A is pronounced ah. In the word cart, the A is pronounced R. Phonics rules explains how you pronounce the A in cat and how you pronounce the A in cart. Here's another example. The word 3 and the word there. Both words contain T followed by H. Phonics explains that there are two ways to pronounce T when followed by H. The TH in three is pronounced as a voiceless sound, and the TH in the word there is pronounced with a vibration of the vocal cords. And both ways are different from the original sound of T, and the original sound of H. In English-speaking countries, children are taught to read and write using phonics. Should Japanese English learners learn phonics? Yes, but before phonics, you must learn English phonemes. Phonemes are the smallest unit of sound in a language. Phonemes are the building blocks for all verbal communication. We blend phonemes together to make words. We put words into grammar patterns to make sentences. So, to communicate using language, we must be able to hear the phonemes in the language correctly and be able to say them reasonably well. Some languages have many phonemes and some don't. English has 44 phonemes. 20 phonemes are vowels and 24 phonemes are consonants. Japanese has 22 phonemes, 5 are vowels, and 17 are consonants. English has 22 phonemes that don't exist in Japanese. In addition, the 22 Japanese phonemes don't necessarily match any English phonemes. Some phonemes seem similar, but the way the mouth and tongue move to produce the phonemes can be quite different. This is a big problem for English learners. The Japanese education system doesn't teach English phonemes. Katakana substitutes for English phonemes. Big problem because English phonemes are not katakana. And it's not only the sounds of the phonemes are different, there's more. Japanese and English phonemes behave very differently. English phonemes, vowels and consonants represent individual phonemes. Japanese phonemes, only vowels and the character ng represent individual phonemes. English phonemes, 2 or 3 consonant phonemes can be next to each other in words and be pronounced individually. Japanese phonemes, 2 consonant phonemes are never next to each other. All consonant phonemes except the character ng have a vowel phoneme attached to it. English phonemes, a letter or letter group can represent more than one phoneme. Japanese phonemes, a hiragana or katakana character never represents more than one sound. English phonemes, letters have names that are different from the phoneme they represent. Japanese phonemes, a kana character is called by the same sound it represents. English phonemes, as many as 5 letters can be one syllable, and a syllable can end in a consonant phoneme. Japanese phonemes, a syllable equals 1 consonant phoneme followed by 1 vowel phoneme. With the exception of the character ng, a syllable never ends in a consonant. English phonemes, English speakers stretch phoneme sounds when speaking. Japanese phonemes, Japanese speakers don't stretch phoneme sounds when speaking. Every syllable has the same timing. English phonemes? English speakers move their lips, tongue, and jaw a lot in order to make the correct sounds of English phonemes. Japanese phonemes? Japanese speakers don't need to move their lips, tongue, or jaw as much as English speakers. If you can't recognize and distinguish between English phonemes, you will struggle to comprehend spoken English. Examples. If you can't distinguish between light with an L and right with an R, you might misinterpret indirections. If bat and bet sound the same to you, understanding spoken instructions could become difficult. This is the modified version of the International Phonetic Alphabet. You find this in Japanese English dictionaries. It's meant to help you pronounce English phonemes by showing you a keyword that has that phoneme in it. Here are the consonants. Big problem. The International Phonetic Alphabet is useless, especially for Japanese. If you're Japanese and you have never heard English phonemes and can't distinguish between them, there is no way you can use the International Phonetic Alphabet keywords as a guide for pronunciation. So here is a big question. How to get English phonemes into Japanese brains? You can't learn another language's phonemes from a book or from a non-native speaker. Brains are computers. Like computers, brains can't do anything until someone installs software into it. If you want English phonemes in your brain, you must install them. How do you do that? The same way Japanese phonics were installed into your brain. Motherese. It's the key to language acquisition and phonemes. Motherese, or sometimes called caretaker ease, is the high-pitched, rhythmic, slow, exaggerated, repeating voice that mothers use when they talk to their babies. The next time you have a chance to be around a baby under the age of 1, pay attention to how focused that baby is on your mouth as you speak. I have my own personal experience with this. Sometimes mothers of my youngest students would watch the lessons with their babies. I noticed how focused the babies were on my mouth. And when the babies were old enough to join my lessons, I realized that even with the limited exposure to English phonemes they received during their older siblings' lessons, these new students seemed to have a hearing and speaking advantage over the kids who didn't have any prior exposure to English phonemes and words. I learned about Dr. Professor Patricia Kuhl's research on how babies learn language through TED Talks. I really recommend that anybody who's interested in language acquisition watch her videos on YouTube. Professor Kuhl and her team at the University of Washington verified what I had observed in my little English classroom. Babies are intently listening to and downloading every sound they hear. Dr. Kuhl and her team have access to amazing machines that reveal what exactly is happening in the brains of babies as they're watching people talk. Her findings show that we've been quite ignorant about babies. We usually think babies who can't yet move around aren't doing much of anything except eating, sleeping, and messing up diapers. But the imaging machines reveal something quite different. Babies are very busy downloading every sound they hear. Babies from 0 to 8 months are phoneme experts. Babies are born with the ability to clearly hear and distinguish between every phoneme from any language. As long as babies have face-to-face interactions with speakers of those languages, they have the ability to recognize and process whatever phonemes the speaker is using. After 9 months old, babies' brains start specializing. Around 9 months of age, babies' brains start specializing in the sounds of their native language. Neural connections for phonemes they rarely or never heard start to weaken. This makes foreign phonemes harder to distinguish. This is because their brains are strengthening connections for those frequently heard phonemes and language patterns and starts to ignore those it doesn't hear regularly. But if babies continue to hear foreign language phonemes regularly, their brains keep those neural connections just as they do for their native language. Dr. Kuhl's research highlights the importance of giving babies early exposure to multiple languages and lots of phonemes. This is very interesting. Dr. Kuhl's research revealed that infants acquire language more effectively through direct face-to-face interactions with caretakers rather than by passively watching screens. But actually, even though Dr. Kuhl's research found that screens alone weren't enough for language learning, my experience is different. I've actually met and taught kids who became very good English speakers only through screens. Their skills were surprisingly strong. Some were almost native level. These children started watching English on screens before they turned 1, with exposure ranging from just 20 minutes to 2 hours a day. They watched English videos and as they got older, played games in English. In many cases, their accents were nearly native-like. It all depended on what they watched. Children who watched more educational content with real people instead of cartoons tended to develop better skills. So while screen exposure alone isn't always enough, it still can be highly effective and worth the time and effort. Good news, Motherese is not only for babies. Motherese is also good for language learners and for students struggling to read and write, according to Dr. Kuhl. What are the consequences of not knowing English phonemes? Not knowing English phonemes is like being hard of hearing. A person with hearing loss struggles to follow conversations because they miss certain sounds in words. As a result, the conversation doesn't make sense and they can't understand what's being said. But with a hearing aid, everything changes. Suddenly, they can hear all the sounds clearly and the conversation becomes easy to follow. The same is true for learning English phonemes. Once you can hear and recognize them, you can understand words and sentences more easily and pick up English more smoothly. Another consequence for not knowing English phonemes is that native speakers will struggle to understand your katakana-based pronunciation. Perfect English pronunciation isn't necessary or even realistic for most Japanese learners, but mastering English phonemes as much as possible is essential for clear communication. How can you learn English phonics using Motherese? Of course, you can't be a baby again, but you can learn phonemes the same way babies do if you choose the right teacher. Your teacher should be a native speaker. Your teacher should be aware of the importance of phonemes and the challenges caused by the differences between the phonemes in your language and English phonemes. And your teacher should be patient, willing to use Motherese, speak super slow, exaggerate sounds for you, and be willing to repeat sounds as much as you need them to be repeated. Can you learn English phonemes from YouTube videos? Yes, if the videos are made by a native English speaker specifically for phoneme training. If you can clearly see the speaker's mouth move as they say each phoneme or speak in simple sentences. The training includes comparisons between phonemes that sound very similar, and you spend hours and hours of intentional practice and don't give up. Please beware of two things. Thing one, many teachers and businesses selling English courses advertise that you can pick up English pronunciation simply by being in the presence of a native speaker. This is almost never true. If passive listening worked, many more Japanese would speak English and have good pronunciation. You have to repeatedly listen to and mimic the way a native speaker says the phonemes until you can finally recognize and reproduce them to an understandable level. Thing two, phonemes and phonics are trendy now. So many Japanese English teachers on YouTube make phonics and phoneme lessons. Well, this can be a big problem. Sometimes these people can't pronounce English phonemes correctly. The videos are made for grabbing likes rather than helping learners master phonemes. Of course, a Japanese English teacher with native level pronunciation is qualified to teach English phonemes. But be careful. I often find non-native English teachers with accents trying to teach English phonemes on YouTube. YouTube channels I recommend for phoneme training. The videos that I make are for the purpose of helping both kids and adults master English phonemes. So far, SozoX is the best place to learn phonemes on the internet that I have found. Check them out. They feature both American and British pronunciation. I think Mr. Thorne Does Phonics is a very good place for both adults and kids to learn phonemes. Mr. Thorne is a British elementary school teacher, and he also has great videos on phonics. Lucy Max is a good YouTube channel for all English practice at home. It's good for phonemes, it's good for phonics, and it's good for simple conversations. Check them out. There are two big obstacles affecting phoneme and phonics education in Japan. The first obstacle is ignorance about phonemes and phonics. As I previously mentioned, most Japanese adults have zero knowledge of phonemes and phonics. They don't even know these words, let alone how important they are in speaking a second language or the consequences of not learning them. And the second big obstacle is too little time. Japanese English learners, both children and adults, have too little time for English. That means phonemes, which they don't realize are very important, get ignored. Mastering phonemes and phonics requires a crazy amount of time and practice. Even if learners are aware of their importance, lack of time forces them to prioritize conversation practice and just hope they somehow magically pick up correct English phonemes. Honestly, there is no good way to cram the crazy amount of speaking practice students need, along with the crazy amount of phoneme and phonics training students need, into a 1 hour lesson once a week. It's just not enough time. Hopefully, in the future, I can find time to make some effective phoneme training videos and some videos on using phonics to share on my YouTube channel, and hopefully students will find time to use them. The good news is this: like learning to ride a bike, phoneme training takes practice until it feels natural. Once learners can hear and learn to tell apart the English sounds, they don't need to keep practicing. They'll hear and say them automatically. So in conclusion, I hope this video has given you some understanding of how important learning English phonemes is to English speaking. When learners can input English phonemes into their brains and use phonics for pronunciation and spelling, they'll feel more comfortable and confident in English. Let's give learners the skills they need to succeed at speaking English as natural as possible.